like an MMA fight, right? He's like down right now. Like he's a little groggy, and we gotta
Right.
pounce on him. The
Yes.
left needs to be pounding the message home all day, every day. And as you said yesterday, and on the issue of restoring democracy. And
Right.
get out there every day knowing you truly do have the majority of the people behind you. This is a
Right.
time to make more noise, not less. Press the advantage. Put MAGA world on the defensive. Make them answer to the policies that they're continuing to have in place.
Once we do that, once we make that move, they don't have any answers.
Not the answers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. 2 Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. All right, folks, let's be honest. All right, there's no surprises about the quick, clean sweep last night. We expected it. We predicted it right here on 2 Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. We called it. We told you it was happening. We told you Mondani was winning. We told you that Gavin Newsom was leading the charge out in California on that ballot initiative, Prop 50, and it happened. So, folks, stick with us here. There is a huge swell moving in the right direction when it comes to our elected officials. Bless you. Joining me
Thank you.
from the beautiful confines of the Hudson River Valley, Brocken Ellis joins us, the Uptown point guard, looking at, wow, the news coverage in New York must have been off the chain. I can just imagine some of the comments they couldn't play. Now that we have a Muslim, at the helm in New York. And you know what? He's unapologetic about it, Brock. And he should be, because you know what? Nobody asks, right, for your rent check and, what your religious faith is, right? They just want their money. And that's the bottom line. And people don't have enough of it because the city has become unaffordable. Not to mention the suburbs and places like where we grew up. I mean, I couldn't afford to move back to our hometown.
But that unaffordability, it was just a bellwether. That unaffordability is everywhere USA, right?
Yes, sir.
He just brought it out in the fore as his main message. Interesting, in his Truth Social post today, Trump even mentioned that he's all about affordability, right?
Yeah.
Literally used the word in one of his posts today because he's scrambling so hard to either deflect blame or run away from the whole situation and or co-opt the messaging. Is survivalist to co-opt the messaging,
Right.
just
Right.
as Marjorie Taylor Greene is, right? Because she's got a whole new message now as well. But yeah, it was a great day across the board. We did expect to see fantastic results for us, for our camp.
Sure.
The
Sure.
multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial unification of America that we want to see. It was a
Right.
great night for that. There were even some victories in some places that were particularly surprising that you just mentioned me like 2 minutes ago that I hadn't even seen because I was so caught up maybe in the New York action. I did see that there were 2 statewide wins in Georgia,
Yes, sir.
but you said there were a few others in the South.
Yeah, Mississippi, was interesting. They broke the supermajority there in their state senate. And see, and that's what we were talking about yesterday, Brock. You got to get out in these local elections because they matter. The GOP had the supermajority in Mississippi, which meant, they could basically do whatever they wanted to do, whenever they wanted to do it. So, folks in Mississippi are saying, hey, you know what? We're going to stand up against this radical, Republican agenda. We're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to be, your whipping boy anymore. And we're going to fight back. We're going to come out. We're going to vote. And here's the thing, bro. We got numbers. We got numbers.
We got the numbers. If 2/3 of the country says that Trump disapproves of Trump, then
Right.
we know that you have the numbers right there by a healthy margin. So
Right.
it was all about would people turn out. Now, because we had all those marches and high numbers at those marches, it gave me a sense, okay, if people are willing to march for a few hours on a Saturday, they're
Right.
certainly willing to just drive to the local poll, stand in line a little bit, and vote on a Tuesday. At least we hoped that was the case.
Right.
In New
Right.
York, the turnout was massive. It was the biggest mayoral turnout since the late 1960s. I haven't seen whether that was the case across the board. I think in
Mhm.
California it was big as well. My gut tells me like it was just high turnout everywhere across
Everywhere.
America.
Yeah, yeah, because people are starting to realize, number one, that's the only voice they have.
Yeah, what
Right?
else can you do?
Yeah, there's nothing else you could do. If you feel helpless, vote. What did Barack say? Don't boo, vote. Right? So we're seeing people sprint to the polls and make their voices count and demand, the accountability from these politicians. Because that's the best thing you can do, right? To get back at these politicians, if you will, put them out of office, vote them out, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene is running around singing a new tune this morning because not only she's in a district where this new legislation is killing her constituents. She's in rural northwest Georgia, right on the Tennessee line, right? And it's killing her constituents. She's got Alabama to the west, Tennessee to the north. Okay? That part of the world was devastated, Brock, when the Dalton and the carpet industries and the housing crisis hit. A lot of those carpet mills never came back. So folks have been scrambling up there for many, many years. That part of the state, there's no airports up there, right? There's no public transportation up there, right? It's rural, it's farming, right? It's agriculture, it's manufacturing, right? Their options are so limited. And now they're being priced out on a regular basis, right? From doing just the simple things. Think about it. Beef is going up,
Yeah.
chicken's going up. Have you bought some chicken wings lately?
Nope.
I mean, it's ridiculous trying to purchase chicken wings. They're so freaking expensive now. And I live right near the chicken capital of the world, right here in Gainesville, Georgia. I'm 30 minutes away from Gainesville, the chicken capital of the world. And chicken wings are through the roof. It's ridiculous. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to pay the price at the election booth if she doesn't get something done for those folks up there
Yeah,
with their
we
SNAP
were asking, is
benefits.
she the canary in the coal mine of peeling away from the core MAGA messaging, which has turned so sour, right? It's
Right,
just so sour
right.
between the horrendous ICE visuals to now people seeing the healthcare premium costs going up. So every day someone else gets a letter in the mail or has the company-wide meeting where they're told what the healthcare next year cost is going to be for each individual, and it's doubling and
Hmm.
tripling in some places. Like it's astronomical the change in
Right.
people's economics the healthcare is kicking in, and for anyone who's already suffering, I mean, what the fuck are we doing with the food stamps? How is this a winning play to literally starve people out and complain that the SNAP program has corruption and too many people on it? Like, it's fucking food. Like, so
Right.
the messaging is horrendous on the
Yeah.
MAGA side. God bless them. They're just fumbling and bumbling and still following Trump, whose only response is to lash out more and figure out who else he needs to be in
Yeah.
conflict with. He's not a problem
Right.
solver, right? Like he's
No.
just out there looking for the next fucking conflict. So he's now just mad. He's
Right.
mad. I guess he's now currently mad at the Senate, but he's also mad at the people, right? Because the people just voted against him. So now he's
Right.
mad at us for voting against him. So what's he do now?
Brocky's got nowhere to go. He's backed into a corner. He can't open the government. Remember that thing that was I told you was going to be the death nail in his coffin? He can't open the government. They won't even they still haven't sworn in the representative from Arizona, Graval. She's still floating around in a relative obscurity because, MAGA Mike won't do what he's required to do by law. And it is a joke. It is an absolute joke that they would rather protect these prolific pedophiles, right, than feed America's children. That's what we're talking about here. Feeding America's children, protecting prolific pedophiles. Pick one because the Republican Party has made their choice. No. Now, how do you beat that back, right? And why can't we message to that? We should be ringing that bell every day on every podcast on every microphone all day long instead of letting these clown reporters from legacy media get out here and create their own narrative. What are the Democrats going to do now that they've had these wins? Are you going to go back to the negotiation? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
are you
I mean,
talking about?
look, right now, I mean, the Dems, we got to end the celebration, right?
Right? There's nothing
End
to
the
celebrate.
celebration right now. Boom. Good night. Made a really good statement. Kind of reinforced to each other that we are the majority and that if there's free and fair elections, we
We can
will
handle it.
swing this country back to a better place. But it's just almost like, as Trump terms, it's like an MMA fight, right? He's like down right now. Like he's a little groggy, and we gotta pounce on him. The
Yes.
left needs to be pounding the message home all day, every day,
Yes.
that on policies, on big picture stuff about vision of America, and on, as you said yesterday, and on the issue of restoring democracy, and get out there every day knowing you truly do have the majority of the people behind you. But this is a time to make more noise, not less. Press the advantage. Put MAGA world on the defensive. Make them answer to the policies that they're continuing to have in place.
Yep. And Brock, we'll find out that once we do that, once we make that move, they don't have any answers.
I don't have the answers.
There's no good answers for starving children. White, black, brown, I don't care what color the kids are, right? The kids are suffering. And again, I'm telling you, this is impacting our educational system. It's going to impact the teachers. It's going to impact the administrators. Kids coming to school hungry is a bad deal all the way around, right? Especially the older they are. Brock, I don't know if you've ever dealt with a hungry child. When I worked in the school system, I had the displeasure of taking a young man home who hadn't eaten in a couple of days. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. And I remember it like it was yesterday, Brock. The lights were off, there was nothing in the refrigerator, and there was no one home. And it is the most disturbing thing you have ever seen. And I knew something was wrong just by the way he was performing on the field that day at practice. You could see it. And to me, this is lower than low. This is pathetic. And again, it's cruelty for the sake of cruelty's sake.
Okay, so I think to answer the question you said up front is like, just as a reminder, I've lived my life in comfortable white America. So no, I have not encountered a child in hunger.
Thank goodness.
I guess I don't know if it's sad to say, or it just is what it is, right? No matter how you wrap it. No, I haven't seen it up close and personal. I mean, I'm empathetic, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, my parents worked in education, but my mom worked in social work, and she saw a lot of this. Working poor. That's the thing that we need to drive home, to middle America and upper middle America. There are people out here who are working and still can't make ends meet. And I'll never forget, one of the things we do every year at Christmas here in my family is we'll purchase Christmas for a family, but you adopt a family for Christmas. And when we first started doing it, we were living in Michigan, and my sons asked, what do you mean they work and can't afford Christmas? What do you mean? I remember my oldest son asking me that, and I said, they're not making enough money. And he just had this puzzled look on his face, like he thought everybody with a job went to Disney and, had an awesome Christmas and, did the things that our family was doing, right? And because, as a child, you just think everybody lives like you do, right? But then once you expose them, to other conditions and other experiences, you know, with this is within our community. I didn't have to drive far, right, to adopt a family, that was struggling. Which is the issue. And it's only gotten, that was 98, 99, 2000. Here we are 25 years later, still dealing with that same issue.
Well, it's so, which makes it so obvious why Mondani steamrolled
Yes.
Cuomo in New York, because he's talking about affordability. Like, he's not talking about the wealthy people living on the Upper East Side that everyone wants to cater to, and everyone's so worried they're going to leave New York and New York's going to be like destitute. It's like, well,
Right.
fuck, New York is already unaffordable for most people, so fuck them if they leave. Right? They want to go to Florida. It's sad to say, yes, it'll hurt the tax base, blah, 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 blah. But you already have so many people that can't afford it. That's the least of their issues, is whether
Yep.
the fucking wealthiest people stick around or not, right? So it's just,
Exactly.
it was just it was such a winning message. That we call it, quote, populism, but like, it's not even populism. It's just it's just reality. It's just it's just recognizing most people's reality. Think about the quick math, Mark, as you were saying that, a full-time worker, because we don't raise the federal minimum wage, let's say someone out in Arkansas is making $10 an hour, working 40 hours a week, it's $400 a week, it's $1,600 a month. Okay. Who's living, eating, and having health care? Just those three things on $1,600 a month. And that's someone working 40 hours. Because even if they work 60-hour weeks.
Right.
Right?
Right.
They work an 80-hour week and not make it affordable, even if they're making $15 an hour. But that's why the fact that we haven't budged the minimum wage has kept so many people working full-time in still unaffordable conditions. They're walking the tightrope of the poverty line, right? And we're seeing it with the federal workers losing a paycheck or two.
Absolutely.
Boom, they're on a food line.
And this is the thing that Republicans will argue with you till you're blue in the face talking about the minimum wage is high enough. Really? It's high enough? Are you seeing what we're seeing? Would you open your fucking eyes and take a look at how people are struggling? The minimum wage is cool if you're living with your parents in high school. That's about who it works for, because they don't have any bills, right? They don't have any overhead. They don't have a car note, right? But once you get out here in the real world, right? Georgia Power don't give a brother lights free. It's not happening. And the rubber has to meet the road. We've got to say to these politicians, you've got to go, because you're not interested in protecting the American dream. I'm working. I'm doing the things I'm supposed to do. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm trying to follow all, the road markers to success, but yet I still can't afford a home.
Yeah. The voters just are saying change the policies, right?
Yeah.
That was the message yesterday. Change
Yes.
the policies, right?
Yes.
Only the elected officials can do that. Okay, we're going to elect people who are going to change the policies. Yeah, I saw something. There was what state was it? I'm going to have to do my homework again. One of the states where they even raised the state taxes to fund meals in schools. And I'm like, absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely. That's a policy that made, fucking Trump is cutting SNAP benefits. One of the states had that as one of their special propositions on the ballot yesterday. So we know how to fix the problems of America.
Yes, sir.
We've just never been willing to do it. And
Well, there's a certain swath of people who have never been willing to do it, right?
And they've had power, enough of the levers of power to keep it from happening.
And
We've always said that, Trump swung the pendulum so far to the right on so many issues that maybe if we win this thing back, we can swing it further to the left and to, a fairer society than we've ever had. Maybe. Yesterday felt like a step in that direction. But we gave away yesterday, right? Mainstream media is already saying the Democrats still don't have a message, and Spamberger's saying one thing, and Mondani's much further to the left. And my takeaway now is don't care. Don't care. Not everyone has to agree on every single issue. We'll find common ground. It'll certainly be better than what fucking MAGA is bringing to the table.
But Brock, Spamberger, Mikey Sherrill, and Mondani are all talking about affordability. What are you talking about? Look, Northern Virginia, one of the most expensive places to live in America, in the entire US of A, right? New York City, one of the most expensive places to live in the entire USA. New Jersey, a bedroom community of the people who work in New York City, one of the most expensive. You try to move to Fort Lee, Brock. You tell me Fort Lee, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, right there next to the bridge, the George Washington Bridge is affordable, right? Some of these northern Montclair, New Jersey,
Yeah, it's not at all.
some of these beautiful communities right off the Garden State Parkway. You tell me those are affordable communities, right? They're affordable, yeah. If you got a two-parent, high six-figure income, houses are 700,000 on the low end in those places. On the low end. I mean, they're all saying the same thing. But the mainstream media is bet. You know how much money they're making because people want to tune in to see what the latest dumb shit that Trump has said.
I don't
They're
know, man. After
making
after
the money.
after Sunday night's 60 Minutes performance, I mean, is tuning into Trump of interest to people in the same way it used to be, or is the act getting
Bro,
tired?
bro, I don't know why it would be. That shit was a train wreck, right? And anybody within 50 feet, and he was pissed off because they edited so much of it. Imagine what fell on the cutting room floor. We might have heard more about the shoot him in the legs. What was the defense secretary who said, yeah, can't you just kind of shoot him in the legs? We might have heard more of that crap because this guy is totally off his rocker. He's not stable. He has no plan. There is no plan right now, Brock. There can't be a plan because the plan, if you open up the government, you're going to be forced to swear in the Arizona representative, right? And you can't have another. If you're Donald Trump, you can't have another free and fair election because you're going to get smoked. And think about it, bro. This is a lame duck president. He shouldn't be able to get anything through. Anything. We're not going to see him again after 2028. Well, we better not see him again. And 26, I know it's a year and a day away, but you know what? We've got to get to the polls in numbers like we've never been out before.
I mean, I don't see how Trump allows a fair election after the one he just saw. I can't see how he allows it.
No way,
So
brother.
the difference now between the past is, I think, is Trump's mental decline. Like, he doesn't have the capability to shift the message, but
Sure.
he's gonna try something.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think it's gonna be?
I'm still going with your theory of him trying to tamp down uprisings. With his, I think it's just going to get crazier and crazier with the shutdown, right? And then he's got these National Guard troops in civil unrest training. He's declared martial law.
He's
Everything
gonna amp up ICE. He's gonna amp up domestic
absolutely.
turmoil in hopes of creating the crisis
Yes.
that allows him to shut things down. Which means
Yes.
we're still going to end up needing to be out on the streets
Right.
to, you know,
Which is going to be very dangerous for
yeah,
us.
it's still going to be dangerous. Yesterday
Yeah.
was nice, but it's now we're 365 days away from the next election if it were to happen. And it's still going to get there. America's getting more dangerous. And as I said yesterday, when we thought Trump was going to take a loss, which he took,
Right.
beat
Right.
down, that, Trump's more dangerous after he's lost because now he'll do anything to
desperate.
stay in power. So he's desperate. So now he's a trapped animal. So now things are going to get, amped up and a little scarier. So hopefully we learned a lesson from voting that it's going to take big numbers. We have to be out there supporting each other in big numbers. I think we've learned the lesson that you have to fight every fight
Yep.
and you can't capitulate, and certainly not in advance. but we're going to have to. There is a protest going on in D.C. right now around the Washington Monument, which is fantastic. It's like an Occupy D.C. thing going on. Seems very organic, but there's going to have to be more and more shows of solidarity. And like you said, you felt things felt a little unified yesterday. Muslim winning statewide in Virginia, Mondani. It just definitely had a lot of different colors, sizes, and shapes winning yesterday.
Yeah, don't forget the Detroit mayoral race. We have a black female there.
Oh, Asian female in Detroit. Yeah, black female in Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah, the Asian woman in Boston won re-election. Look, that's what we've been calling for, right? That multicultural, multi-ethnicity coalition, of folks who want a more fair, more just America. And it's not a pipe dream, Brock. And that's the thing that I wish that, these 83 billionaires could. I mean, how many fucking yachts can you water ski behind? Like, I don't get it. Like, how much is enough for you? You've already done really, really well. Right? Like, that's not enough. You need more. We can't just get by with, 50, 75, $100 million, net worth. I mean, come on. These 83 lunatics, are just, consumed with greed and trying to make, and willing to hurt, the people below them, because that's the way Peter Thiel and that bunch look at us. Willing to hurt the people below them in order to make more money.
Yeah, it's
disgusting. It's disgusting. We saw it firsthand with Elon and the Doji Bros. The muskrats.
In the end, what did they accomplish, right?
Nothing.
Debt's up over $1 trillion. Like, that was all bullshit. That was a fucking fraud. It was all a fraud.
Than God. So, yeah, man. All right, give me a quick hit. What do you got?
Okay, so the sandwich thrower in D.C. trial is working its way through, and the defense has come out and poked holes in the prosecution based upon the officer who had the hoagie thrown at him, because he said both the hoagie hit his vest and splattered and he had onion and mustard, but also said that the hoagie landed on the ground intact in its wrapper. How could both things be true? So the quote going out is sort of like, if the bun don't split, you got to acquit. But the lunacy, that is what the resources of the Department of Justice are spending their time on in Washington, D.C. after all of that talk of how we had to crack down on crime. This is the big trial that's come out of all of it. Right. And the ICE agent coming across like such a wimp, complaining that some mustard, and I think it was like, oh yeah, and later in the day I noticed a piece of onion that actually landed on my sleeve. Like that's the big unrest that needed to be cracked down. And the fact they let this trial go on as a mockery, it's like Shakespearean, like, they have the foolishness going on the side, so there's some laughs amongst the tragedy. It's just fucking absurd.
It's insane. And if the legacy media was on their job, they'd be making fun. Back in the day, we would have made a mockery out of this trial. When legacy media was about advocating for the little guy back in the 90s, late 80s, we would have made a mockery out of this trial. We would have put like a feature reporter on it, to reenact the whole, there would have been the whole reenactment, right? The hoagie in slow motion, right? And then we'll talk to a scientist to try to figure out how the mustard and onion escaped the
and what velocity could the hoagie have moved at? And what force could it have hit the vest? Could it have penetrated the vest? What's the splatter marks? How far could the mustard have gone? I mean, it's like he had a lethal weapon. It just boggles my mind with all that's going on in the world that they allowed that trial. And that just gets me back to the point, like, MAGA has so lost the message.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's like the Christy Nome shooting a dog. Like, you're so stupid. Why are you talking about this? Why are you allowing this trial to go forward? Like, they've lost the narrative. I don't think they can get it back because I think Trump is too demented to help them get it back.
Right.
But
He's too
they totally
demented,
lost it.
and they've got no good answers for the problems that they've self-inflicted. So, listen, when you're trying mustard splatter, when you got a mustard splatter expert on the stand,
Ice agent, yeah.
oh, where's Dr. Fung when you need him? How about that, Mr. Fung?
And it's also like, oh, so ice can pull like a woman barefoot out through the window of her car. And I did watch that clip finally. I'm like, what the fuck? First of all,
Right.
who pays for the car damage? It's just ramming cars on city streets.
Yeah.
So that's what ice is doing that to people. But when a sandwich is thrown at them, they're
Right.
going to court. Like
Right.
they almost like you just look so soft. Like, come on, you can't handle a hoagie being thrown at you, but you're like coming out with AK
Right.
sevens on the street and beating the shit out of people.
Out of a woman with
Yeah.
with a cup of coffee in her hand.
Yeah, in her hand. Jesus. So that's my absurd notion of the day. What do you got for me?
So, we talked a little bit about some of these upsets in Georgia, and the one that stood out to me was on the Public Service Commission, right? And so people are talking about affordability. This is another one of, those, kind of quiet elections that impact you in such a huge way. The Georgia Public Service Commission, has the ability to regulate, major utilities, right? So two Democrats flipped two Republican incumbents. And now we've got two more, sane human beings on the Public Service Commission that regulates, Georgia Power and, residential energy bills, which have been climbing and climbing and climbing until they become unaffordable, until you have to be on a payment plan year round, right? Just to afford, basic utilities that you need to keep warm. We still get cold snaps here in Georgia. So, when temperature gets in, the single digits, these heating costs go through the roof. And then don't even talk about running your air in the summer. It's hundreds, it's like adding an extra car note. When I look at some of our utility bills, I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. How do people do it? Insane. So, that was my quick hit. Not nearly as absurd as yours, but again, points out the importance
Yeah.
of getting out and voting in every single election.
Yeah, we're taking the W, but we know there's a lot more work to
A
do.
lot more W's to get. Yes, sir. All right, buddy. That's it for us today.
All right, Mark, always a pleasure. Catch up with you tomorrow.
Rack it up and do it again. Stay loud and proud. Peace.